This Plum Workshop live again. Another week. Testing stuff. Making sure that the stream is working. Hello BB, I see you. I'm refreshing Twitch to see if it says I'm live. And it appears yes. There's just no activity. Because I'm over here on my computer. Home Workshop live! Yep. Hello guys. How are you guys doing? Oh my goodness. Just gonna give it a few minutes to see if anyone else pops in. Can you guys hear me okay? I had to move some stuff around, especially after all of the priming and stuff that happened. Lovely. Okay, good. Ew, sucky meetings. Yeah, the lighting I think is a little darker. I can try turning it up. I don't think, yeah, I think it's at max right now. I'm always quiet. Yeah, I don't know if there's much I can do about the lighting because the angle of the camera had to change a little bit to focus. It should be like right here, but I don't think I can do anything. Hello, Boneless. Hello, people coming in. Just doing some more minor setup. Making sure I have all my supplies, that I'm here. You can see me. Making sure my drink is open. Oh, okay. The camera quality is good. Okay, good. That's good. Wait, I think Rocket just came in here. Rocket, are you here? Nope, I don't know where he went. Muter. What are you doing, Rocket? Catty cat. Anyway, hello guys. I hope you had a good week, a good weekend. Back to the grind again. I know, I'm trying to get him. Let me go get him. Wait 1 second. Where are you, Snooter? He's not having it. He is not having it. He's standing on the stairs right now. Hi, Mr. Freaky. Sorry, I just want to try to find my cat. But he is on the stairs and he stared at me like, why are you calling my name? So that is not gonna happen. Maybe. Oh wait, he's here! Hello, Spooky. I'm here, Snooter Cat. I think I need to mute myself on Twitch. So I can hear my... Actually, that doesn't really matter. Aw, he's giving me a hug. You can see his paw. Here he is. Yep. He is wanting some hugs right now. Here he is. Looking at my stuff. Just to pretend. Oh yeah, he loves them hugs. So, yep, here's his paw. His paw is as big as this. So, oh, he said I had enough of that. He jumped off of me. So, anyway, welcome to another week of streaming and kit building. We've gone quite far so far in this build. Last Wednesday, we finally cracked out the airbrush and decided to work on some pieces and spray them with primer. So we got all of that done, except for this piece here, which I'll show in a second. So all of these pieces at this point are considered primed. which means that we added a primer that will, a primer is a product that we allow or that we put onto a kit in order to have paint adhere better to it. And so all of these pieces were sprayed with white primer. They were used, I used Tamiya Liquid Surface Primer White. We sprayed that on with some lacquer thinner mixed in. So these pieces are considered white at this point. You can see here, this like base, we decided not to use it. I changed my mind, so I didn't spray the top here. But you can see the color difference between these two pieces. So this is just regular resin here, and this is the white primer on top of that. So it does definitely make a difference in terms of, you know, what color it will be. I also finished sanding her Maid hairband, and so you can see most of the pieces looked somewhat like this, covered in red, and kind of this, you know, the red tint was added on it. Some of them had some putty, and so comparing these two, you know, next to each other, you can see it's quite a huge difference in the color. So we make sure to add white primer, at least I do it for anime kits, because it will make the colors stand out that much more and make them super bright. So today, you may be thinking, well, we primed it, you know, we're getting ready to paint because it's already all primed. That's not the case. What we do usually in garage kit building is we prime one time, and then we look over each of the pieces and we fix any defects that we missed the first time we did all the puttying and stuff. And so while I was priming, I noticed that there were a couple of spots that I missed. There's like a hole in her head right here that wasn't puttied properly. But she had so many like tiny pinholes that we filled in with that Bondo stuff. But even then, it kind of, like, we missed some of it. And so yes, there's always more sanding. That's what I'm getting to. In short, we will be puttying and sanding more. It will not be as intense and crazy as adding all of the Bondo. Like, we're done with all the Bondo. But I will be using the Tamiya Light Curing Putty and the UV Clear Gel tonight to go over any of the spots that I missed. And then after that, we can give this a second round of primer. What will also be happening is we'll be sanding down the primer. So when primer, what the rocket's doing something weird. When you prime, usually you end up with like a pretty smooth texture, but you may have some like rough fuzzies and stuff on your primer. And so what we're gonna do is use a higher grit sandpaper, higher than anything I've used before. We're kind of gonna go down through each piece and sand it down, get it really nice and smooth. So when we get that second coat of primer on, it will go on really nice and smooth. It'll cover up any other additional red. Like, you can still see there's some red here. So yeah, this is basically like pass one, well, pass two technically, because we did all the sanding and all of that, and now we're looking over the pieces, getting them smoother and smoother, and then finally we'll get to a point where we will be able to prime for the last time and paint. So I'm just gonna get started here. Let's see. Yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to pull out, but I don't remember off the top of my head, so we're just gonna go for it. So, hey Allie, how you doing? Yeah, these pieces look a lot better than last time, that's for sure. So yeah, we're not gonna need the base anymore. We're not gonna do that. I think I'm gonna start with her head here, or her hair, because that did have some issues. So I'm gonna look at it real quick. Let's see. Do I airbrush any elements of the final paint coat, or is it all by hand? Most of my final paint coat here is done with an airbrush. So in the future, couple streams later, moving forward, all of this hair, all of her skin tone, all the frills, everything is going to be painted with an airbrush. The only details that I can think of that I'm going to be painting by hand on this kit are probably the little areas. So she's got these little buttons on her sleeve, any touch-ups, so areas that I think that I need to go in with hand and clean up a little bit. I usually do that. Maybe like her collar, I'm not sure what color I want that, so I'm not sure if I'll be masking or hand painting that. Hand painting would be fine. And definitely her eyes will be hand painted. So I hand paint all of my eyes. I don't use decals. These are also pre-sculpted eyes basically, so they've got an eyelid and everything, so we'll make it really nice and easy to just go in and hand paint all of that. And then maybe some details like her straps and stuff. So she definitely has a combo needed, but we'll get to that. So let's see. What I'm gonna do is take a quick look at the piece, and I'm going to go in and drill out any of the extra little baby holes that I saw that were not filled in with the Bondo. And then I'm going to fill all of those in first. So there are still quite a few. Okay. We need like a magnifying glass or something here. I don't know if I can hold this up to the camera at the same time. Okay. But yeah, so right now, basically what we're doing is like the second round of touch-up work. So in order to get, oops, wow, so that happens already. In order to get my kits nice and smooth and like the final product that you see in my past builds, I do a lot of this secondary prep work after I prime. Make sure I fill and notice every hole. And if you notice, what I just did is I accidentally scraped my drill bit against the bed here. So I'm gonna have to smooth all that primer down. At this point, any scratches, anything that you do is gonna affect the top coat or the paint coats and stuff that you apply. So you wanna be really careful, like what I did not just do, to make sure you don't scratch your kit. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I just read the comments here. Allie has an oddish planter that she has been showing me, and the progress is stunning. The oddish is very healthy and growing at an abnormal rate. Okay, so I'm not gonna bother with like every single hole, only the really big ones that I see, because what I'm gonna do is just kind of fill in the areas with putty, and then hopefully that will fill in everything. So what I'm also gonna do is start smoothing out the primer. So, oh yeah, it's a bit nasty over here too. Sorry, I'm gonna drill this out real quick. Oh my god, I'm dropping everything tonight. Okay. Okay. So yeah, what I will be doing is smoothing out the primer with a higher grit sandpaper. So I'm going to use a couple combos here. I'm not going to try not to use the 800 grit very much, because that is going to eat away at the primer. So from here on out, I will mostly be using a 1200 and a 1500 grit. These are considered finishing abrasives, and I buy them from Tamiya. So you can see this is 1200, and then this one back here is 1500. So these are pretty high grit sandpapers. You're really not going to be removing a lot at a time, and it's more of a buffing sandpaper. So the purpose is just to smooth things down or remove fuzzy details, that kind of thing. So same exact, pattern that you do with the other one. You work in a circular motion. I'm gonna 800 this scratch that I just made, and you can see the primer will come right off. Well, can't tell the glare on my computer. See if I can get it to focus. There we go. Yeah, so you can see that the color is a little bit different here, and that's because I am actually sanding off the primer. So the first round of puttying and priming that we're gonna do here, you're gonna be removing primer, and that's totally fine. You can see it's kind of flaking off here. The goal is mostly to fix the imperfections that we missed. So I'm not too concerned about rubbing all this primer off, but what I will be doing is that similar to how we did a 400 grit and an 800 grit, and the 400 was removing everything and the 800 was buffing it, now I will be moving a step up, and I will be using an 800 grit to sand everything, and then the 1200 grit to smooth everything down. So we've moved up basically 400 grits from the last prep phase. So with that said, I'm gonna start applying my putty and trying to fill in these holes. You can also excuse the mess over here. This is unrelated to the Maid kit. I am also painting right now, so my bench is pretty busy. So like anywhere past up there are all the stuff that I'm working on, which you guys cannot see yet. So some of you may have seen me use this before. This is Tamiya Light Curing Putty. This is a putty from Tamiya that you put up to light and it will cure in about 30 seconds to a minute, or at least dry in 30 seconds to a minute. And so I'm using that to fill in all of these imperfections that I missed or didn't fully putty during the first time we went through all that puttying. Basically, it's just like a second QA/QC check to smooth everything down. And I'm not worried about putting this putty on top of primer. I'll show you why in a second. But there's just a couple of small areas and holes and stuff that I missed. So not sure how long this is gonna take because I didn't fully give every piece an inspection. So we'll just kind of play it by ear. I'm gonna hold this piece up to the light. Yep, not even UV light. I'm just holding this up to my regular desk light. So I do have that was what I was forgetting, my UV light. Let me grab it. So we do have a UV light here. This is my UV light, and we can use that. We have some UV gel that works with this light, but this putty just works under a regular one. So we're just gonna hold it up to the light for 30 seconds. Or a minute, whatever. Basically until it hardens. So I usually give it 30 seconds, a minute, and then I check on it. Thanks for the follows, by the way, you guys. I didn't even hear it. I'm kind of in the zone talking. Oh, hi, Euban. Thanks for the follow. And Salad for Salad. Thank you for the follow. Very much appreciate it. Okay, so at this point we're good. You can see they're nice and yellow, and so I'm just going to start sanding these areas down with the 800 grit. And what I was saying before is I don't mind puttying on top of it, because once we sand all of this down, we're going to end up hitting primer and probably sanding that off too, so I'm not too worried. I think what I'm gonna do actually is I'm going to put on a glove because my hands are a little bit dirty and I had some paint on my hands and I don't want any of that to transfer to this kit. So I'm just gonna hold this piece with some gloves and then I can sand. The more you kind of touch it, the more oils from your hands also get onto the kit, and you don't really want to do that, especially if you're gonna be putting paint on top. So. Yeah, this stuff will clog up your 800 pretty quickly, but we don't want to go in at all with the 400 because that's just going to eat up this primer. Yep, no cross contamination here. I do have a bunch of 800, but I might need to cut some more sandpapers. So. You also have to forgive me if I'm a little bit slower or just not as talkative because I'm getting pretty sleepy. I got my COVID vaccination today, and so my arm has been kind of sore all day, and like I can feel it tensing up here. And so we'll just see how we're going by ear here. Let's see. How many different sandpaper grits do I have on hand for a project like this? So my standard ones that I keep around, wow, look at all that, are definitely 400, 800, 1200, 1500, and 2000. Those are my, ones that I use kind of a lot. But I do have all sorts of other ones. I have everything down to 200 up to like 2500. I've got 600, 200, 320, just rando ones, but I really don't use anything below 400 these days. And I found that 600 and 800 are more or less similar, so I prefer the 800 when I'm working with the fine stuff. Oh, nice, Allie. When did you get your vaccine done? Did it last you only like 24 hours, or was it a little bit longer than that? Luckily, I haven't had any other like crazy side effects. I didn't get any nausea yet or any feverish symptoms. Just been the soreness, and then I'm not sure if the sleepiness is because it started raining or if it's because of the vaccine. So kind of leaving that up to interpretation. On Thursday, wow, so that was a couple days then. Yeah, I expected that the soreness would kind of last, but I'm hoping that I don't get any other symptoms. That's good to know though. Yeah, I got the Johnson & Johnson one, so luckily I don't need any other shots, but I haven't really read up on any of the side effects for that one, so. But I wasn't in a high-risk group or anything, so they basically just gave me the shot and told me to sit for 15 minutes, and then I was able to leave after that. It was kind of scary though. While I was waiting, there was a section next to me, so like they had 10 chairs reserved for like 15-minute people, and then a whole bunch for people who had to wait 30 minutes. And so there was a woman over there in the 30-minute section, and I was just on my phone, and suddenly you just hear this like thump, like a dead ass thump on the floor, and this woman had just like collapsed from her like sitting there, and she was like on her stomach and not really responding, and it was like pretty freaky that someone like basically passed out after getting that vaccine. Everyone was like, they have observers and everything there, so they all went over there and helped her and made sure she was okay, but still it was like, wow, pretty spooky. Yeah, like this is the reason why we get that vaccine. It's like people like that who are having such a strong reaction, even, you know, taking that kind of a dosage. Imagine what would have happened if they actually got COVID, you know. So it made me happy I got the vaccine. And she was fine after that, but man, it was wildness. So yeah, if you haven't gotten it yet, hope you get it soon. It's really not that bad at all, and the effects will be a lot less than if you actually get COVID, so that's always good. Okay, I've clogged up like 3 sandpapers at this point. You can probably, let me see if I can do this lighting difference again. Yeah, so you guys can start to see the difference here in colors. This kind of beigey color is the regular resin, and then this white is just the primer. So by the end of this whole kit is gonna look all spotty. There'll be, you know, primed areas, not primed areas, but that's fine, that's what we're expecting. Let me grab, 1 second. Got my Mr. Clean sponge. So I'm gonna try to wipe some of this off, but I don't, well, works okay. Wanted to try to reuse some of these 800s, but that might not be feasible here. Jelly, we don't have to go back. I'm not excited for a second one. Oh man. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, Allie. Yeah, having to do it like twice too is never fun. But hopefully now that you've gone through the first one, the second one will not be as bad. Because I feel like all this stuff I've heard about it, it's usually like some people get that nausea and all of those after the second dose, and some people get it the first one, but I haven't really seen anybody who's gotten it both times. So hopefully all of that has passed for you. Sorry, I got real focused for a sec. There's quite a few spots here that I'm just working on. And I dabbed quite a bit on this area because there were a bunch of little pinholes that I still had kind of missed with the Bondo. Like, Bondo does a good job at spotting all of it, and it will fill it in to an extent, but if you're wiping it away and doing all that stuff like we did, sometimes you do need to fill in for a second time. And that's expected. Marcy got through with it with a sore arm. I mean, don't feel bad about having a reaction or anything like that. It is so varied. That's what's so crazy about it is like, and that's why I was kind of so scared of COVID, because you really don't know what kind of reaction you would have until you get a taste of it. You know, your system gets a taste of it. And so, you know, some people just get it really bad and others don't have any problem at all. It's just, man, just not worth dealing with it. That's why I've been so vigilant in not going out and wearing a mask and washing hands and stuff for this whole past year, because I just really don't want any of the side effects. I don't want to deal with it at all. So hopefully it's all soon. It'll be a, you know, something that we're all pushing through with. Oh, really? The J&J was? Okay, fingers crossed then that I don't have anything else happen to me. Alright, so let's see. We've got all of this side done with all that spot filling. We do have these two spots over here though that I'm going to do real quick. And then what we're going to do is give this a nice smoothing down with the 1200. I actually don't remember what this paper is, if it's 1200 or 1500, but at this high grit it doesn't really matter. I've got both of them. I'm like, I'll cut the silver one and I work with it. Okay, so let's do some more of this. Let's see. The statistics, they say, wow, you had COVID twice? Is that just because you're working in the hospital? That's wild. That's like pretty scary that you're basically having to go through the effects of it like 3 times. So bad, man. Okay, just giving this small area, oops, now we're good, a touch up real quick so you can have a nice view, HD view of my pale arm that hasn't seen sun for a year. And I dropped all my sandpapers, of course. Alright. Okay. Okay, check on this. And yeah, we're good. So gonna keep on moving. The good thing about this is we've done almost all the bulk of the work, and so any, you know, puttying and cleanup and all of that is going to take a significantly less amount of time now. We won't be sitting and bondoing and waiting for pieces to dry and doing all of that nonsense. I'm just gonna pick out, I've got a bunch of sandpapers here. Need some more 800. Yeah, exactly, boneless. This COVID has been great for me. I don't have to see anybody. I can just do stuff from home. We go out in public and I'm just like spooked now. I'm like, don't get near me. Let's see. First one could have been either me or a roommate that worked at a bar that had lots of dinner. Oh my god. The second was in January after taking a trip to Texas. Oh my god. Oh jeez. I'm so sorry to hear that. It's really, that sucks, like that one of them wasn't, basically both of them probably weren't your fault, but it's just like being out there and exposed to it. It's just so bad. It's pretty scary, this whole thing, you know. Definitely like going to the site and getting the vaccine felt like almost something out of a movie. Like it just felt so surreal, you know, to go into this place that was, you know, blocked and guarded by the National Guard, and the procedures were like so formal and you know, governmental, and that's probably not even a word, but it felt like, you know, you're lining up and they're like no cameras allowed and stuff like that. all to get this vaccine. Really gave seriousness and weight to the fact that this is a national crisis. Whereas before, I mean, you're sitting at home, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna go out, I'm not gonna do anything, but it's like, no, this has been ongoing, it's pretty scary and serious. Yeah, hope you guys, if you haven't gotten a vaccine, are able to get one soon. You know, if you just can't yet, you know, if it's not your time or the phase or whatever, just keep practicing your diligence and trying to keep other people safe. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the case for us for a long time, Mr. Frike. It was like the elderly and essential workers. Not that people 40 are elderly, but they're slowly, you know, working it down. And at this point now, they're accepting, at least in some places in the U.S., anybody above 18 can go in and get one. And you can walk in, but it's a lot easier to make an appointment. So I made an appointment, which was pretty easy, and just was able to get it. So, but they fill up so quickly, and we're starting to experience shortages again. So, just gotta be aware. Hi, Jess. Oh, nice. Congrats on your first dose. That is always a good thing. Getting your appointment was like, yeah, same, Allie. I really gotta say, like, our friends who have been signing up are like, this was like, you know, the procedures for like signing up for Comic-Con or like a con, because like you would go in there as soon as you get your notice, and you gotta check out super fast. And like, even when I was checking out in the span of like a minute, like 2 people had already made appointments, so there weren't that many left, and I was like, oh my god, pretty stressful. Yeah. Yeah, same. I'm excited that a lot of our friends are getting vaccines. You know, just means that brighter things are around the corner, and we'll be able to start hanging out again, all sorts of fun stuff. So, okay. And I think I've sanded down this area enough. So mainly there were 2 spots here that were larger holes that I somehow missed. I ended up filling them in with Bondo, and they weren't fully filled in. So I could see kind of like a slight outline of a hole that I drilled, and we don't want that because you're gonna see that in the paint job. You'll see the outline of the little hole. So what I basically went in and did is I filled it in with putty again, and that way it will be completely flush with the resin. So what I'm doing now is I'm smoothing out the primer that's already on this piece with a 1200/1500. I don't remember what grit this is. There's a little dot here. Probably might be a little hard to see, but there's a little dot on the front of her hair that I'm not sure if that's just putty or a blob of resin or what, but it did show up, so I'm sanding it down. Okay. We also want to go in here and there along the hairline and smooth all of that out. When you're spraying primer, a lot of the fuzzies tend to get caught in areas that you're not really focused on, and so when you're spraying your airbrush, you may be spraying it like all over here, but then you're not spraying it like at this angle, and so the fuzzies from your primer, like as it's spraying, the particles get kind of stuck here, and then they make it like grainy, and so you don't want that graininess. You gotta smooth it all down. Let's see. Waiting in the vaccine line is the con back. Oh no, you're right, oh monkey. I think by next year, cons will start to be a thing again. Probably not this year, maybe like late in the year. But I'm really not trusting anything until like 2022. Not sure if the big cons, I think some of them are already canceled for the summer, so. Okay, let me give a real quick look at this. Okay, I'm gonna go in and sand down this again. That area that I accidentally scratched with my drill bit, I ended up needing to sand down all the primer. So back to regular topic. Have I ever worked with 3D printed stuff? No, I have not worked with 3D printed kits. I actually have like a couple of them, but I haven't had the chance to work on them yet. There is a slightly like different procedure that you have to do with it because like it is plastic, unless you're working with 3D resin. The plastic stuff will, you know, have ill adverse effects with like lacquer paint and stuff, so you gotta be really careful with that. I know that there are products available that you can like spray on that will smooth your kit down, so it's almost like a filler, like a putty filler, but it kind of melts down the plastic and smooths it out. So I remember a friend used that when he was building like 3D props and stuff for cosplay things, but I don't remember the exact product. And let's see. Yeah, I wouldn't give those an acid bath. I do know that the Japanese artist Masked Modeler recently made a like 3D printed kit, and so I don't know if he sculpted it or someone else did, but they put out a whole video on it on YouTube that covers like the differences between resin kits and then 3D printed stuff. So that would probably be a good place to start. Excuse me. I trust that guy as a source of info because from all the videos that I've read, the info matches up from what I've learned, and so I would assume that that would be whatever procedures he uses are probably things that are fine to do on those types of kits. Yeah, some of the kits I have that are 3D printed are interesting to say the least. One of them, I think I may have talked about it before, is like a cute bunny kit, so it's like a bunny girl, but it's like bright ass green resin or plastic, whatever. And so it's just, oh my god, it's gonna be something to work with. Let's see, I was curious after the cat grass died. Oh yeah, definitely. That would be something to look into. I actually have a 3D printed Oddish on my top of my desk. I should grab it real quick. I'm not quite sure what to do with it either. That's why I haven't touched it. Let me see. Oh, nice, Monkey. I did not hear about that con yet, but that would be good to know about. Here's my Oddish. So this one was 3D printed, but you can see you've got all the lines and the textures and the filaments and stuff. And so I kind of just haven't had the chance to smooth everything down and get them like to a feasible point. But yeah, I do have this guy. But yeah, he's got all these lines and stuff, and so very cute, nice size. They're fun though. I've seen tech has like really improved even in like the past 2 years, and so even home resin printers are getting really smooth casts now. It's pretty crazy. So I know a lot of people in this hobby are basically like stockpiling 3D prints, and you know, they are starting to purchase resin printers, and that way they can just like have an endless supply of kits that they can print from home. So that is wild. Tech is so crazy. My bench is already so full of stuff. I don't know if I would invest in a resin printer yet. It's not really something that I'm super interested in. But man, is it cool. Kind of texture is why I hate. Oh my god. Fries, does it really come out like that? FOTS's kits have like this type of texture? Let's see, my brother has a resin and regular 3D printer. Okay, figurizers is a really smart idea though. Let's see, I put together an Aelita battle. Oh yeah, Aelita kit. Most of the parts I printed. Interesting. Yeah, and then you get like, you know, I know a lot of people can do, you know, more vintage characters. Like Aelita is so beloved, but really there's like 2 garage kits of her. But I've seen like some insane 3D print ones, so that's super cool that you're able to do that. Can I just call you Tennessee? Or is it TN something else? I'll call you TN. Wow, I can't believe that those. I actually don't own anything from FOTS. Unfortunately, like their kits are, or not kits, their figures are so cute, but because of stuff like that, yeah, no thank you. It's just, it's so horrible. Isn't Belfine related to them as well? Like the company Belfine? I know that FOTS is like a trio with something else, or a double. I just hate how they are starting to get like cute licenses, and then they have this rep of you not being able to buy it because you know it's gonna break or it's gonna look like with weird textures, that sort of thing. Okay, I've also been working on this for a while now. What I'm really just doing is I'm continually buffing it, but I don't know if I need to work on this piece anymore. So let me take one more look. I think that we're mostly good to keep moving. But yeah, at some point, like, you're just sanding down and it's getting shinier and shinier as you're buffing it out, and there's not much more I can do here. So I'm going to move on to the next piece. I'm also like taking off primer at this point by just continually sanding it, so I don't want to do too much more on this one. Let's see. Beeful, that was it. Beeful is the one I was thinking of. Just it was like something B. Yeah, I avoid them as well. Let's see, what do we want to move on to? And then had a figure theirs, and the character's skin was awful. Oh, that's horrible. That's horrible. Order from Japan has arrived. Nice. Hope that you get it soon. It's always good to work on more stuff. And yes. What did you order? Just some, what Gundams did you get? Okay. I'm moving on to her arm, rando. Not really doing this in any particular order. Okay, there's also a hole here. I don't remember if this was puttied. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. So I'm gonna drill that out. Let me take a quick look at the rest of this. Trying to see if this was a hole. Nope, that's just some primer. There's a lot of tiny micro holes that didn't get filled in at the base of her arm here, which is not too important. So this piece is gonna fit like right into her arm here. So I technically don't need to fill in any of that, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of primer just in case. Or not primer, putty, and primer later. You know, I wish I could imagine those names in my mind, but I can't, so I'm just gonna go with it and say that those are probably cool. And nice. More Tamiya. Ooh, Kit Kats. All of that sounds like a fun order. Always nice to get stuff, especially in the midst of all of this COVID, when Japan is like completely shut down to anything. Here in America, it's still pretty rough. Our options are very limited in terms of shipping from Japan. So anything I order, or I'm like thinking about like a pre-order, you have to basically get it through DHL or like by boat. They have started opening it up so you can get some air mail now, but if you're ordering like scale figures, it's not really an option. Like a Nando's can ship through the surface, but, or not surface, the airmail, but that's about it. And even then it takes like a decent amount of time. I miss the days of just EMS and unregistered SAL. Don't want to have to pay like 50 plus bucks for a single figure from DHL. Let's see. One looks like a samurai and the fish, okay, well, alright, sounds good. I always like samurai Gundams, that's cool. Ready for EMS to come back? Oh yeah, for sure, Jess. Like having all of those exchanges are always so fun. Even being able to have cheaper shipping is fun. Like I just miss having the option. All these shutdowns this past year have like really killed figure collecting for a lot of people. Like even if you weren't ordering a lot before, you're ordering even less now. And it's just, yeah, it's completely basically stopped my figure building. Like I finish more figures a year in garage kits than I do like in figures I got last year. It's pretty wild. And like, not to mention, I'm just going off on a tangent here, but figure collecting has gotten so expensive, like regular PVC figure collecting. When the average price of a figure is like 15,000 yen or more. Most of the time it's more than that now. You're looking at like 20,000, 25,000 yen. I mean, who has the money to like drop, you know, that much on like 5, 6, 7 figures every month? Like you're spending a good chunk of your budget. So it's just gotten a lot harder for the average person to collect, I think. It's good if EMS is open for you, Mr. Freak. It's definitely shut down here in the US, so US collectors have been suffering for about a year now, being forced to order from courier services, which charge like crazy. Yeah, it's true, Canon. I mean, if there was something that I really wanted, like I would still be ordering it, regardless of the price. It's just that these really high prices have made me even pickier than I was before. So I do not order very much these days. I mean, I don't even really order that many garage kits these days either. More focused on like building up my collection, like literally building my collection, and then, you know, buying other stuff. Okay. Just very slowly getting through this, kind of doing a puttying and sanding and then doing it again, and unfortunately that's just what happens in this phase. Okay, don't need too much more though. You can see we're using very small bits of putty at this point. We're not lathering it up or anything. Don't know really where to put these pieces that I've already worked on. The one piece, I guess. One piece. Okay, and then this one, you can't really even do anything with it yet. I haven't even primed this one, so I'm just gonna set that aside. Okay. And we're good, so. I had to putty this one twice because I sanded it down, and there was a little bubble that was in the putty, so I'm gonna make sure all of that is filled. What also helps when you smooth down all these pieces with a 1200 or 1500 is the primer does kind of like smear down, and so it does somewhat go into these tiny pinholes and helps you get that smooth finish. So adding the 1200 and 1500 grit all over does have a purpose. We're not just sanding away all the primer. Let's see. Oh yeah, I heard that too, Monkey. Yeah. That prices on that type of thing are set to go up. And let's see, am I using a different putty today? Compared to the past couple of streams where we were using that red Bondo stuff, yes. Today I am using Tamiya light curing putty. So this is kind of a spot putty that I use. It's yellow, it fills in really well and doesn't shrink, and it dries super quick under light. And so what I usually do is, for kits with a lot of damage like this, I go in initially and I fill in all those big holes that I drilled out with this stuff because I know that this putty won't shrink. And then I go in with that Bondo, the red putty, and I fill in all those holes that were really tiny. So all that progress we did over the past couple streams filling in tiny pinholes and stuff like that was with the red putty. Now I have primed this kit, so sprayed it with the white primer, and any areas that Bondo like didn't fully cover, so if it shrunk a little or if I just didn't apply enough, I'm going in again with the light curing putty. So really the process of sanding and priming and puttying, they're all really intertwined, and they're all considered vital stages of preparation in garage kits. So really, like, one of them will help you, then you sand down and you prime, and that one will help you find the areas you missed, and blah 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 blah. So it's important to have at least for me, a variety of putties on hand that suit different purposes, because just using one putty for everything it's really difficult to do. Like this one I specifically use when I've like drilled out holes or bigger holes that I found, and then the Bondos for the micro stuff. I also have those 2-part putties that I use more for like correcting the sculpt of something. So like if 2 joints don't fit together properly, you can you know, use the putty and help it that way. Just gonna check this real quick and make sure that I didn't sand down too much. Looks pretty good to me though. I'm pretty happy with how this is. I do need to smooth it out a little bit up here. The nice thing about this putty, or this sandpaper, is it doesn't do too much damage. You're just kind of smoothing putty off, or gosh, I keep changing these 2 up. Everything starts with P. You're smoothing all the primer off. You're sanding down any imperfections. Buffing it out is like always really satisfying to me. So we want this looking nice and smooth, and so once we get to the painting, it'll just lay really nice and flat. You won't have any graininess whatsoever, and it will be a nice time. Okay, let me look at this real quick. Got a little bit more up here. I think this might have been a scratch from something, so I'm gonna go with 800. What will also happen, and it's probably a little hard to see here, is you're sanding down primer, and as you sand down, you may end up, like if you have 2 areas that are uneven, as you sand down, you'll be able to see primer on one end but not the other one, because you sanded down like all of one edge. And so having that additional color will really tell you where you need to sand, or if there's a scratch area you missed. And then once all of that is gone, like the gray or the white inside of those scratches, then you know it's smooth. So it might be a little hard to visualize, but that's what it is. Okay, I think this one's good now. Let me see if I can take a photo of this so you guys can kind of see what I'm seeing. Okay. Don't worry about what I do, Boneless. I'm sure what you did is like considered normal and normal prep. The prep that goes into garage kits is like pretty wild, and I do a lot more prep than a lot of people I know. So here's a picture with the primer. You can see this is the white that, or the Tamiya light curing putty that I have applied, which is yellow and a completely different color. You can kind of see scratches here. So we're not going to see that when we put the kit up, like when she's assembled, but primer will show you these scratches, and then these are fuzzy like hairs, and so I think I can just brush them off. But you can see there's some micro scratching here. This is all stuff that can be buffed out, you know, if you choose to do so. At this type of level, like nobody is going to be micro like zooming in. Your camera might. But you know, everyone's gonna be seeing your figure from like this far, right? They're not gonna be zooming in like times 30 and seeing all of this. So don't worry too much if you're, you know, seeing like some slight texture here or anything like that. really what we're looking for is like the big things. If we're seeing holes, you know, that we need to fill in, that kind of stuff. So, and even then, if you're concerned, you can go in and smooth it down even more with your sandpaper. So yeah, I'm going in right now and smoothing down that kind of ridge that I saw before, that scratch. Yeah, that long line that I showed you was definitely a scratch, so that can be smoothed out. May have to sand down all the primer in this area, but that's fine. Yep, close-ups are crazy, and so I take photos throughout this process to keep track and, you know, see what I'm missing, but at some point, you know, there's a balance because you're like not going to be looking at it at 20 times detail. My like motto for myself is if my DSLR isn't going to pick it up, then I'm not going to worry about it. If you get like a macro lens and all of that, then you start to be worrying a little bit more. But right now my DSLR picks up, you know, a good amount of details, but not like the crazy tiny things, so I don't worry too much. That might change, and then I will get even more crazy about cleanup and stuff, but for now it's fine. And so I think we're done with this piece for smoothing it out now. When we apply our second coat of primer, that should reveal or hide anything else. We'll just have to see. So I'm gonna move on. Okay. I'm gonna do the other arm now. Right away I noticed a couple fuzzies on here, and I kind of scrape them up with the edge of my sandpaper. That should remove them real quick. So. Don't really see any huge holes that need to be filled in here yet, so. What you may also see while you are priming and sanding down your primer is your primer might chip off in some spots, and I've usually noticed that those are potentially problematic areas where if you needed to mask, your paint might kind of peel up at that spot. Not sure if that's caused by like not cleaning that area enough, but usually once I like wipe the area down with lacquer and I clean it really well, I don't have that issue again. So if you're getting peeling happening because of your primer or your paint, you may want to consider cleaning your kit again because the mold release may be an issue. The whole purpose of that bath we did, which seems so long ago, was to remove all of that like slight greasy stuff that would cause problems with primer and paint adhesion. So I'm not seeing any of that here. It's all sanding it down like really smoothly, which is what we want. That means that we cleaned this kit really well, but it varies piece by piece. So if I see that, I will be sure to point it out and show you guys. Thankfully, I'm really not seeing too many of the holes that we filled in with the Bondo being an issue with this piece. So the Bondo went in really well. And the pieces are still a little bit red in some spots, but that's because I applied a pretty thin coat of primer. We don't want to overdo it on the first time because we're going to be sanding down a lot of it. And so what can happen if you put on your primer coat too thick is if you're like sanding it down, you're going to have areas that are like really thick and other ones that aren't because you're sanding it. And so what we're aiming for here is a nice like thin layer that we can sand down, and then when we put on the second coat, it's not, that first layer isn't going to affect it. So the last thing you want is like different levels of primer action going on, because then it leads to your kit looking kind of like lumpy in places, or like there were sculpting problems, and in reality that was just like the primer causing that. So, and that's, I'm specifically talking about airbrushing primer. So like canned primers, I recall I was not quite as picky about it because they do go on pretty thick, canned primers do, so just keep that in mind. If you are spraying canned primer, you want to make sure that you're like at least 6 to 10 inches away, and you're not spraying for like long amounts of time on it, because then you're going to over saturate that piece with primer. You really want to go in with a couple of thin coats, misted on coats, and then go from there. Okay, let me test this one. I didn't really see that many problems with this one, so that's good. I'm pushing this piece in, make sure that the kit fits okay. There's like kind of a really tiny gap here, but I think that we decided we're not going to mess with that because you're not going to see it. So pretty much any of the back here, like the back of it, you're not going to see it. Her hair will cover all of it, which is a shame, because like this area with the apron and the little crosses here, like that's really cute. And I'm gonna have to go in and do all the detailing on that, but we're not even gonna see it. That's just what happens. We'll have photo proof, and that's about it. So I'm gonna take off this fuzzy and move on to the next piece. Yeah, pretty good. It does move on, you know, quite quicker when we're doing this step. So let's see what's next. Let's do this. So this ribbon had a ton of issues, I remembered, and I did not prime it too thick because I had a feeling that I would be needing to do some sanding on it. But surprisingly, I'm not noticing too many issues. There's this hole here that looks like I bondoed, but it didn't fill in at all. So we'll drill that out. And let me look real quick. Yeah, it looks like most of the holes that I tried to fill in with Bondo shrunk just a tiny bit, or I didn't fill it in enough. So I'm gonna drill these bigger ones out. Yeah, again, Bondo's superb at really micro detail, but anything larger than like a 0.3 millimeter bit and it just starts to suffer. So that's why I switched to the other putty. Yeah, pretty much all of these holes are gonna need to be redone with this putty. I do this every time too. I'm like, Bondo will fix everything, and then no, it just leaves me doing more work later. Okay, we're gonna apply a little more putty. And these are dry now, so I need a new toothpick. Yeah, any like the light curing one, the UV gel, all of this will work to fill in these small holes. You would not be using like a 2-part epoxy or a epoxy putty or anything like that on these. You want something that will sand down easily and that you don't have to like mix 2 parts and wait for 8 hours. Hold that. Pretty much dry already. Okay, I'm gonna work with just these 4 for now, and then I think there were like 2 other holes that I drilled, so I will work on those later. But I want to make sure the light reaches all these pieces. Do I get dizzy for working too long with focusing up close? I'm trying to figure out what to do about it. No, actually I don't, Allie, so unfortunately I can't help you with that. I am pretty nearsighted. Well, I used to not be. I'm a little more nearsighted now than I was before, and so like working up close and stuff never really gave me issues. But what I do sometimes, just to refocus my eyes, because what happens is, you know, you focus up close for so long, and then you like go down to get a drink or something or whatever, and then you have a lot of, like, at least I have a lot of problem focusing. So sometimes while I'm working, I just kind of take a break and I stare at stuff far away, and that way my eyes get a chance to kind of realign themselves. And I think it's part of like an eye strengthening thing too. You don't want to be like too hyper focused on something for hours on end. It's good to give your eyes a break, to kind of stretch, you know, because your eyes are muscles as well. They need to be flexed, and you can do, what I do sometimes is eye exercises. So I move my eyes like up and to the left and right and down. I do like circles sometimes, and then usually I'm okay after that. Okay, this is all all dry now. It's very easy to get hyper focused when you're working on, you know, kits and stuff like this, where you want it, like, I work very close. Yeah, pretty much. I would recommend taking maybe, like, you know, at the minimum a 2 or 3 minute break, and just kind of close your eyes or focus elsewhere. If you have like an open window, sometimes I stare outside, and that does help too. Okay, this putty did not dry fully and it just kind of flaked off, so I'm gonna have to do this again. Just this one. But yeah, what I was getting at is I like to work really close, so having this stream has actually been kind of helpful in making me like hold a piece far away, because like my eye, I just point at my eyes like you guys can see them, but I have the piece really close a lot of times. Like my eye is like about a finger width away from here, so I usually keep them so close, which is bad with sanding and all of that too. So it's good to work farther away, I think. Holding this up again to the light. I think we'll be able to get through most of these pieces tonight, and then on Wednesday we'll do another priming session. So I'll have my airbrush set up and we'll be going through the priming again. Don't think it will even take longer, because last time it took maybe like an hour, I don't remember. But the second round of primer is usually even quicker, and so things are very rapidly speeding up. Almost all of the prep work is done, and every time we're like priming and sanding, it just gets faster and faster because we've filled out most of the issues with the kit. So very soon we'll be approaching painting. I need to figure out and lock down what I want to do with this kit in terms of the color scheme. I have a rough idea of how I want her hair and maybe the Maid, you know, dress color. There's not too much that you really like variety and options when it comes to Maid outfits. So chances are it'll just be like some variation of a darkish, you know, black with some tint of color. But I want it to kind of coordinate with her hair color, so we'll see. Alright, flipping this over, I'm working on the other putty now. Selfie shot. You guys even know what I look like? I feel like I may not have even posted it in OFC before. Maybe someday I'll show you. Or you can message Rena, because she has pictures of me. We have pictures together when we visited, and also I'm pretty sure that she just has them saved on her phone. So, let's see, I tried to use magnifying product, but it's just not the same when it's so detailed. Yeah, that's my problem too, Allie, and so I might as well reveal to you one of my tiny tricks that I do. I have a little magnifying glass here that I have been using more and more as I've gotten stricter on myself, and so I can hold it up to my eye and look at the piece really close, and see if there's any issues with the kit. Usually what I'm using this for specifically is eye painting. So you know, when I'm painting details and I got all that and I've got an eye shape that I locked down, I go in with my magnifying glass and I make sure that all of those lines are super smooth and painted how I wanted, that there's no, excess enamel paint in the way. And if not, like if there is, I can wipe it down, that kind of thing. So at some point when you're working with like really small stuff, I think a magnifying glass is more helpful than not. I know people that also use like headlamps and stuff to keep it really bright, and so they're able to, focus better. I don't really use a headlamp or anything for mine, nor do I have like one of those visors that's huge magnifying glass. I'm not at that level yet. When I think of that, I think of that guy in like Toy Story 2, who's like working on Woody's shoe. I don't know if you guys remember, but he like, buffs them all up and he gets them all like nice and clean and pristine again. But he has these giant magnifying glasses that he puts on, and I've gotten comparisons to that before from my family that I need to buy. Like those crazy miniature glasses. That's pretty funny. Yeah, he paints over Andy's name and he gets them all like, and he puts them in a little chair. Yeah, that's how I feel like sometimes when I'm working on this stuff. Yeah, I have trouble working under like really bright lights too. I prefer my light here. Definitely has to be like white light because I notice details a lot better under that, and so I have a ring light on the left here that I use kind of as an all-purpose overhead light. That one even runs a little bit red. The more you kind of work with light, you get to notice the differences in it, and so this one runs a little red. Right now I have this light set on white setting, but you can change the settings, so I don't know if you guys can tell the difference now, but it's getting yellower and yellower. And so I think this is the yellowest that it goes. But yeah, I keep it on this setting here. And this would be like considered, I think it's like 5,000 kelvins, kind of coolish light, but it simulates daylight, which is what you want. And so working under daylight light is fine, but if not simulated daylight light is good too. Definitely recommend working under white lights. There's so many things that you see much better under this type of light. I miss a lot of details when I'm working in yellow lights, like really easy ones. Okay. I used to have the brand Ott light for the longest time. I used that for many years, and then it kicked the bucket finally. So I just purchased this one off of Amazon, and it works really nice. And I like it because it has a USB slot, so I can charge my phone. Okay, these are all sanded, I think. Looks like that's good. This area over here got a little bit rough again. I don't think I buffed it out. And there were still 2 other holes on this end, so, 3 actually. So I'm gonna fill those in. Let's see. Yes, absolutely, Allie. That you make a very good point there. That when you are mixing colors or working with color, that white light is so crucial. To get an accurate color. So many times, you can reference colors or look at it on your computer, and even then, like your computer monitor will have different colors. But being able to see like the true color under white light makes color mixing so much better. Yeah, I do not mix my paints under anything other than white light. Too many times I've just been deceived. Okay, I added kind of a lot of putty here. Probably should not, but I'll sand it all down. Okay, and wait, a little more here. Alright, we're good. I'm gonna hold this piece up. Just these 3 left. There's like 3 little holes on the, if I can zoom in. Yeah, 3 little holes on the edge of that hairband, or her back hair plate, so. Not hair, sorry, back of her apron. More of my lovely arm. I was noticing I'm so pale now that I can see in all my veins, and that's like not really a positive thing. I was like, I really need to go out and get the sun. But at the same time, I'm really happy for all this COVID because all this time indoors mean I don't have any sun damage. So I'm looking nice and young and fresh. I need to find some motivation. Oh yeah, Canon, I totally get that. When you're like so tired from work, all you want to do is like veg out and watch a show or something. It's tough, yeah. And especially when I was working full time and like going into work. Any work I do now is remote, so I'm basically like living at home. But any time I would like go to physically to work and come back home, yeah, I really had to kick my butt to like get the motivation to sit down on my bench and do something. Most of the time I was able to like maybe knock out like a couple hours a week, but that's it. But you know what? Those couple hours mean you're doing work. So even these 2 hours twice a week, you can see we're already here at this stage. So just setting aside that little bit of time, even twice a week, you'll be able to finish stuff. And that's kind of also what I wanted to show myself and maybe show other people, is that you don't need to be, you know, sitting at your bench for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, painting full time to get stuff done. You don't need to quit your career or anything like that. It's 100% possible to do all of this, you know, just by setting aside a little bit of time. Are you feeling called out? Pretty sure someone just left after I told them that. You can do it, is what I'm saying. I wonder how much interest there would be in just like video calling or like getting in a Discord voice chat and just doing stuff that way, because I know like Soap does her stuff. No, yes, that many parts too is annoying. But then at that point, I'm setting like a goal, and I'm like, I'm gonna work on 5 pieces tonight. And then once you get those done, then you only have 25 left. So you gotta break it down in either time increments or piece increments. Either way, it'll get done. At least that's how I always approach my work and my job when I did, you know, lots of stuff in the lab. Gotta break it into relevant chunks. Yeah, we're lucky here. This kit that we're working on is very few pieces. I think, what is it, like maybe less than 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so this kit is only 13 pieces, but that's not the case with most kits. You know, it's just kind of like a lot of times you end up with 20 plus. There's kits with 50 plus pieces, and once you get to that level, it's just, oh my god, you really gotta get your shit in order or else you're gonna be sitting with it forever. I think this commission that I have going on, let me see, I don't know, there's definitely close to 30 plus on it, and a lot of them are pretty small stuff, so you gotta kind of make sure that everything is in order. Let's see, I don't do garage kits, but your stream really helped. Oh, nice! I'm glad that you're working on your stuff too, though, Jess. I have seen your crochet. I think Rena's posted it before, and it is so cute. So, you are so talented. Crochet is one of those things that I like. I dabbled with so many times in like my teenage years and my 20s, and here and there, and then it was like I just can't. I'm not very good at it. The most that I got was like a square, and that was so extent of my ability. I was so proud of that square. I was like, I'm gonna frame the square because this is the hardest thing I've ever done. Let's see. I didn't get my motivation back till I had an opportunity to quit your job and go back to school. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Allie. Yeah, work can suck it out of you. Actually, that path that you guys are both on is very similar to what I'm doing right now, because I am going back to school in August, and yeah, like for the longest time, I mean, I was at my job for a number of years, and especially around like the 3 or 4 mark, it's just like you start to get burned out, and I would come home and I didn't really want to do much, and so sometimes if you can afford it in your life, a reset is helpful. You know, not everybody has that opportunity, but even if you don't, just setting aside, you know, some personal time for you is vastly important, because your corporation is not going to care about you. Like, they're there because you make them money. I'm sorry, but unless you're working for like a really lovely small business that really genuinely cares about its own employees, which the majority of us don't, you know, like, you gotta look out for yourself. Yeah, it was difficult, Allie. The whole, like, basically what we did is we switched career, at least me, I switched career paths, and we moved across the US so I could pursue graduate school and, you know, find better places, opportunities for work, because really what was happening is I was kind of reaching the glass ceiling where I was, and wasn't noticing, like, I had more responsibilities and more work, but wasn't really noticing better pay. And the pay cap was like pretty much where I was at already. I was making more than the average in my area, so here, like, the opportunities are better, and I am able to get into like a subset of a career that I'm really interested in that I didn't have the opportunity to do before. So. Same job for 8 years. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with like deciding that you don't want to do the same thing in your life for the rest of your life, and, you know, getting some additional education to help you get into another path that's kind of related, or even a completely different path. You know, I very much value education, and anybody who chooses to pursue additional education, it's one of the most important things that a person can do, I think, is investing in themselves and, you know, learning more. My parents raised me that way, and so I have a pretty strong stance toward education in college and all of that. Let's see. Just reading your comments real quick. Yeah, I have a lot to say about corporate monopolies and especially in the US, the problem with our pay. But I also don't want to sound like a buffoon, because there are so many things that, you know, I could say about it, but I don't have the statistics to back it up. So I like to go in with stuff with a lot of prior info. But if you don't feel like you're paid enough, or if you're doing enough in the job that you're in, I urge you to seek better opportunities if you are able. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I'm gonna have to go in again. So this piece, I almost have it done, but I noticed that the putty that I used, whoops, wrong one. The putty that I filled in, there was a tiny hole left. So I just drilled that little hole out, and I'm filling that in right now. That happens quite often, is you'll like putty it, and then maybe you'll need to, putty just a little bit more. The rest looks pretty good, I think. We're pretty smoothed out at this point. I went in mostly with the 800, I think, but that should still be fine. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, not to mention, yeah, those types of grants. I'm a little iffy because I haven't gotten my financial aid package back yet, and they pretty sure they went off of my 2019 salary, which was when I was still working, and so I really don't expect to be eligible for very much this year, but we'll see. Yeah, we got a lot of artists in here. artists, you know, masters of their craft. My focus is in STEM, so fully the S part. So yeah, all of that is kind of lost on me. All of this stuff here is like self-taught too, so I don't have a formal art education or didn't go to art school or anything like that. All the banners and stuff I do are like pretty rudimentary because I don't have a background in graphic design or anything. So I really admire you guys that are able to do all that. I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't know. Okay, let's see. This area here, I probably need to smooth down with the 1200. Just looking at it a little more up close, so sorry for the off screen. Some of this stuff you really don't see until you're starting to look at it up close in the light. Oh, thank you. That does mean a lot, actually. Yeah, the only like background I have, I guess, is like drawing and regular classes and stuff that you take in high school. But honestly, I've been working in like building kits for so long at this point that it just kind of happens with experience, I guess. The worst thing to do is like to be stagnant, and so a lot of times I just end up researching and trying new methods and stuff. But a lot of my kits end up looking like kind of different. I guess a lot of them are the same because they're all like softer colors and cute kits and stuff. But the other day I was looking through my gallery on my website at some of my older stuff, and it was just interesting noticing the differences. Okay, need one more small piece of paper. The back is looking a little bit rough. I'm gonna shave it down a little. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's funny. I've known Marcy for a while now at this point. Man, it's been a long time. But I'm glad to finally be able to talk with you too. Because he always speaks very positively about you, and you seem like a cool person. So hopefully someday we'll be able to meet up after all this COVID and stuff. Because I've been wanting to meet Marcy for a while too. Have to do a con or something. Okay, I think we're ready to move on with this piece. The only area that I'm a little concerned about is like right inside of her area here. So let me see if I can focus. Like right here is a little bit rougher than what I would like, but that's okay. We'll be able to see what happens here. Have a good night, Mr. Freaky. Or day? Yeah, it must be pretty late over there. Have a good night. If I don't see you for the rest of the night, then I hope to see you on Wednesday. We will be airbrushing, so that will be fun. Oh god, that's my normal. Rookie hours, that's the burning the midnight oil. Anyway, get some good rest. WonderCon, I've never been to WonderCon actually, although I have heard about it. That would be a fun one. Our regular one, so I'm more of a gamer actually than I am like an anime, you know, con goer. So most of the time that I'm going to conventions, it's to like PAX or, well, it's pretty much just PAX. So I go to PAX or San Diego Comic Con. That's like one of the bigger ones that we used to go to before all of COVID. And that one's always fun, but man, that one is just, I feel like it's more exhausting than it is fun. just because it's such a big convention. And then I wanted to go to some of the larger anime ones here, but once we moved, COVID hit, so that wasn't really an option. So hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Okay. Yeah, PAX is always a lot of fun when I've been to that one, just because I really like all of the indie game booths and all of the, you know, pinball machines and stuff they bring there. And a lot of our friends are gamers, so we're usually just like meeting up and playing games and, you know, doing stuff. It's not also like, I don't feel like PAX is as cosplay heavy, and so usually we're able to get away with doing like a day of cosplay and then just like chilling out at PAX. Whereas anime cons, like everyone is always dressed to the nine, like all 3-4 days of the festival, the convention, and so it was like, I don't know. Also, I feel like PAX runs a little bit older, whereas anime cons tend to skew a little bit younger. Maybe it wasn't the case like before, but now that I'm getting older, it's like I don't really want to be hanging out around people who have to have parental supervision when they go to the convention. Nothing against that at all. Like, I've been there, done that. My mom would like take me to cons and stuff, but it's just like a lot more chill, I think, to go to like a gaming convention. Oh yeah, MagFest. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, it was like PAX, but I don't remember. But yeah, MagFest was great. Everyone there was so fucking old though. Sorry. We were all just a bunch of old people chilling out. But it was fun. Yeah. I mean, come on though. Let's see. PAX South. Never been to PAX South, but I did want to go there because we've got so many friends. At least I have a bunch of friends down in that area now, and that would be fun to meet up with them there. Why are you crying now? Oh my god. Yeah, the PAX we've been to is PAX East, or was it East? It's like the one in Boston? I don't know where it is. I know we go to the one in Seattle, but other than that, the other one was fuzzy, because that's the one we went to before COVID struck. And actually that was pretty crazy. We went to PAX, and then not even like 2 weeks later, all this news was like happening that COVID was starting to pop up in China. It was literally like a couple days after we got back from PAX, and since then everything had been shut down. And so that was the last time like we saw pretty much all of our friends and did anything in person. The last time we like indoor dined, I remember, was like just ate some like clams or something. Man, it's hard to believe it's already been like over a year, almost 2 years. Okay, there's really not too much that I need to do on this hairband, but there were 2 larger areas that I needed to fill in with the putty here. So I'm really working on all the small pieces first and getting those out of the way. I think next one I'll do will be this bigger piece here. So yeah, I know pandemic is like on all of our minds pretty much all the time, but it's absolutely like insane what it has done for our entire world. It will definitely be something that will impact all of us for years and decades to come, you know. Whether it's economics or health or anything, it's going to be a topic of study for a very, very long time. And with scientists, you know, predicting there will be more pandemics in the future, you know, it's just something that we really got to be aware of. Yeah, it really does feel like we've like lost a year, Allie. At least to me, it just feels like there's like a chunk missing from my life, which is so odd. And like days go by so quickly when you're just like kind of doing the same thing at home or going to work and coming home. For all of those poor healthcare workers that are working like non-stop, you know, for basically a year. I just imagine it must be so difficult. lots of kids falling behind because that year, you know, they have so much trouble focusing, they can't hang out with friends. It's crazy. I'm just lucky that I'm in a place where I, you know, didn't have to suffer too much. And I hope that all of you are in similar situations, that you don't have to suffer too much with all of this happening. It will get better. Wait, you need to expand on that, monkey. And you're not talking about round 1. I am very interested in that. Yeah, so my husband and I are huge rhythm game fans, liking different games basically, but we like a lot of them. And so if there's a cafe that has that type of stuff, then I would be all over it. Really love DDR, love pop and music. I was absolutely obsessed with Taiko no Tatsujin for many years. Groove Coaster is one that I'm really into right now. I really like that game when I was able to play it. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to play it for a while. I think it's on Switch now, right? I think I saw like Gar playing it. Let's see. Yeah, Ali, that burnout is absolutely real. 100% can see why you would quit, because it's just the risk to your health, the risk like physically and mentally, not worth it if you can get by with some other career. I really have so much respect for people who are healthcare, you know, nurses and doctors who are able to wake up every morning and do it again and again and again. I know it's like they don't want to be called heroes, but they like really are. Absolutely insane, especially with the lack of support from so much of our government for the longest time. Okay, I'm gonna put this up. I found another hole that I just drilled out. If you are referring to Taiko with like the little drums with faces on it, then yes, that's the one. Usually I call it Taiko drum game is like the English one. So Taiko no Tatsujin. Oh wait, drum master though. And I play the one with the little faces on it. Taiko, I don't know what the English name is. I'm like looking at it now while I'm holding this piece up. But yeah, I absolutely love that game. Played it so much. Always try to play it when I'm at like a round 1 or anywhere that has it. It's so much fun. And I do a lot of DDR when I have the opportunity. I don't really play much other games other than those these days. My gaming has become pretty much casual / gotcha based. But I do have my Switch and I keep that fully charged to play other stuff whenever I get a chance. Just on the Genshin train like everybody else right now. Yeah, DDR is really like died off. It's a pretty niche community these days, and so you got to be in the right groups to find out where the machines are and who's playing it and stuff. A lot of people have just moved to like having their own setups out of their house and then streaming it. But there's definitely communities that would like go to arcades and stuff and play. But again, it's like not really a thing right now because COVID, so it's unfortunate. Like back when before COVID, I remember we went to a Dave & Buster's and there was like a bunch of people DDRing there, and so we got invited to their local like rhythm game Discord server, and so that was like really nice to be able to meet up with people that way. But not anymore. The cave, the owner. Oh, interesting. I'll have to look that up, Monkey. Because that is really interesting. I've actually never heard of that before. but it absolutely sounds like something that I would go to and play at. So thank you. I will be checking up that after this stream. Now that I'm all vaccinated, I can be reckless, you guys. Kidding, but really though. Oh, I think I heard a Kermie. Oh yeah, I did. Thank you, Minty Crossings. Thank you for the follow. We are just standing away and chatting. Today has been a pretty active chatting time. Lots of fun sanding and liveliness happening here. And I think we're pretty much done with this bow. I did notice that there were like a couple of micro holes, but I sanded them down with this tiny nub of a sandpaper, and it seemed to have filled them in, so we can go in with another round of primer and it should fill it out. So looking pretty good. I do have this like rod in here. This is not something that I'll keep in here, but I use this because I've been holding the pieces up with an alligator clip. So if you're seeing the rods on some of these pieces like these, they serve no purpose other than keeping it there so I can prime. Pop-in music, sound voltaire, scoop coaster idea. Awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of the really nice ones. Newer machines too. So that's really good to hear. Don't want any of those like old ancient DER ones from the abandoned dead malls. There's so many cool like Japanese arcade machines out now. It'd be a shame. Okay. Do I have another? Yep, I have one more tiny nub here, so I'm just gonna smooth out this top real quick. Okay, and let me look at it off screen. I think we're mostly good. We'll have to see after a second coat of primer. Sometimes I'm just not sure until once I've like sanded it all down what it will really look like, because there's still kind of like a mix of primer and air resin and puttying happening. But usually after the second coat you can really see what is smooth and what isn't. So I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna work on this bigger piece here. So I think I remarked when I was priming it, I was very pleasantly surprised by how smooth all of this in the back ended up, because there were quite a few micro bubbles that needed to be filled in here. I think all I'm seeing right now is like 2 holes that I need to drill out. So, and these were the bigger ones. So I'm gonna drill these 2 out. And actually there's 3 here. There's one more larger one. There we go. I'm gonna fill those. And one here. That one looks like one I just completely missed. And one here, so I know, oh my god, I scratched again, damn. So I just said that, oh, it looks so good, and now I'm drilling all these holes, but it really is pretty good. Oh, I used to be so addicted, I knew the maintenance guy. Oh, that's so funny. So you worked at an arcade? That's super cool. Usually people who work at arcades are like the coolest, chillest people. I have to sand this down with 800 because I just went and I scratched it all. But we're good now. Thankfully it was not too deep, so. Alright, I'm gonna fill these in first and then I'm gonna buff it out and see what the rest looks like. Because sanding those down will kind of be in the same step as buffing it. And there's a little hair here, so. Your first job. Nice. First job, man. It's a pretty good one for a first job. Although, you know, you're still working in retail and stuff, so you gotta deal with all of that. I think, so I had like a couple of jobs throughout my teenage years. I guess one of them was under the table, so it's not really my official first one. But my one that I was like, had to file W-2s and was kind of official stuff. I worked at an anime store when I was, right when I turned 16, I think, yeah. Turned 16 and I applied for an anime store. and they hired me, and oh my goodness, that really that was a time. Back when anime stores were a thing. Now everybody buys their stuff online, so it's really not as much of a thing. And a lot of those stores just like store bootlegs and stuff, so I guess there's still lots of smaller anime stores around, but I don't really go to them because, again, you buy stuff online. But back then, that was the only place you could find this stuff, and so you really just had to like go to the store, and it was always popping, and we had a whole wall of fake swords from like Bleach and Naruto and all the other like popular shonen of the day. And I just remember so many times I would get these guys asking me if they could hold like every single fucking sword. You gotta like oblige them, right? You have to like do it. But it's just like, oh my god, I remember that. I remember people asking me lots and lots of questions. Almost everything we had in that store was official, but there were definitely like the occasional bootleg figure that would sneak in, and so that was always a really like tough question or answer I'd have to give people, because I don't support bootlegs, but like the store had them, and so I would have to be like, it's not official. Yeah, you know, like I can't control what we purchase here, but like I really don't urge you to buy it. I also remember the first time that the store stocked Nendoroid Petites, which are not really a thing anymore. Like Good Smile Company really they don't do Nendoroid Petites anymore, but it was a huge deal when they got these Nendo Petites. And they had a Haruhi, so Haruhi Suzumiya, the ancient at this point. But I like basically used a quarter of my paycheck, and I was like, I'm gonna buy all of these. I'm gonna buy this whole box. Like, these aren't even gonna reach the consumers. I am buying them. And so I like bought the whole box set from my own store. I think I got a slight discount on it. And yeah, that was part of the start of my figure collecting. This was even pre like garage kit building. This is just like starting to get into Nendos and other stuff, and man, I guess that was just a sign of things to come. Okay, tiny bit more here. Yeah, so many stories from that shop. That was also like, it was in a mall, and so back when malls were a thing, you know, lots of people would be in them, and so you'd get all the mall traffic. You'd get all the people that are like, what the heck is anime? And they'd walk in, and then they'd see like all these girls on the wall, and they'll be like, okay, let's walk back out. Oh, sorry, yeah, Nendoroid Petite, so P-E-T-I-T. They're like mini versions of Nendoroids. They're like about that big. They don't really sell them that much anymore, but they used to be such a hot thing. Let's see, when I worked at a grocery store bakery, I put aside my boyfriend's cookies after your shift. Yeah! I mean, why not, right? Like, if you're gonna work at that stuff, and chances are it's gonna be thrown away, or like if people won't buy it, you might as well, you know, use it. You've just reminded me, Jess, of the time that my boss bought too much Calpico, and so one time he just didn't have enough, like, it was all gonna expire. He bought way too much Calpico, and so at that point I was a nice, good employee, and he gave me a whole case of Calpico, and I just kept it behind the store. I just drank it throughout all my shift. I had so much of that Calpico that I had basically been burned out of like drinking this certain flavor ever again. I think they make a strawberry one, or it's like the pink one. I will not drink that one. I drank so much of that in my teenage years that I drank like, oh my god, I don't even know how much. It was enough to put me off of that Calpico forever. That and like the mango one, or whatever the orange one is, I won't drink that one either. The only one that I will drink now is the regular standard flavor. Yeah, green Haichus. Yeah, we sold lots of Haichus. Those are always really popular, because those were pre, like, you know, now they sell them in grocery stores and stuff, like regular grocery stores, but that wasn't a thing back then, and so yeah, we would always be, those were really popular, the haichus. Ramune, like along with the whole like crate of Calpico, I got so much ramune, so I would drink all of that. Oh, good times. I don't think I could ever do that again. Just reliving my past here while I'm sanding. Calpico is great. I really like it, Canon, and I actually like drank a lot of that in Japan too. Granted, they have a lot more options in Japan, but like I would pick up a Calpico here and there. It's like hard to explain. Maybe someone in chat can explain it a little bit better. It's like tangy. It's not milky. It's just like a tangy, refreshing, almost yogurty drink. But it's not yogurt, I don't think, right? But I really like it. Whenever we go to like an Asian grocery store, I try to pick some up. They have a lot of like different type brands now that are not like knockoff Calpicos from like Chinese stores or Korean store. Calpico is like the Japanese brand one. Yeah, I like that one a lot. I just wish that US stores sold melon soda, because that is the holy grail. Melon Fanta. If you guys ever go to Japan, make sure that you drink some melon Fanta, because that stuff is like nectar of the gods, and you cannot buy it here unless you import it, and it's usually pretty expensive. It was so good. Oh my god. I'm not much of a huge soda drinker, but melon Fanta is like liquid crack. It's so good. Oh my god. And like when we were basically flew in Japan and we went to like a Denny's really early, and they had refillable melon Fanta, and we just like loaded up on melon Fanta the first day, official day we were in Tokyo. Or in Akihabara. Oh my god. And Coco's curry. Oh my god. Thank you to Rena. If you end up watching this VOD, it's because of you that now we have a Coco curry withdrawal. Melon bread, so good. Yeah, melon flavor anything really is like a winning combo. Like it's like a special melon too. It's not like honeydew or anything like that. It's just so good. Oh my god, I do not feel like listening. This is just in line with my teenage years, is listening to Evanescence and talking about fucking anime store. I'm not having that. So painful. Yeah, I really like melon bread. I also try to get that when we go to a grocery store, Asian grocery store. And I really like the hot dog, like breads too. It seems weird, but they put like hot dog chunk in it. So good. Alright, this one's taking a while to sand down for whatever reason. I think I just added too much, or I'm sanding it down a lot, and just not having it. There's also a little area here I missed, so somehow I missed this hole again. I think maybe I sanded it down and it popped in another one. There's still a hair here. Alright. Okay. A little bit more. This is like hardening on the end of this toothpick, so I'm like picking it up, but it's not laying down. There we go. Okay. Don't need a lot. And yeah, it's just that one hole left, and then I think the rest of this we can smooth out, so let's try that. Yeah, I just miss going out. It would be nice to go to Japan again someday, visit Wonder Festival again. Oh, also, I just realized it's almost 10, so what I'm going to do is sand down this putty. I had to think of the word. And we'll do a little bit of buffing on this piece, but other than that, I think I'll just have to wrap up for tonight. we really did not get too far. So I think what's gonna have to happen is I'll do more of this smoothing out on Wednesday. Don't think it will take the whole time to do. And I'll try to do a couple of pieces before. I don't know how much time I'll have, but we'll see how far I get. And then that way we can also do some airbrushing on Wednesday. Hopefully, if the weather allows. Because I was like anticipating doing some of it today, but it's been raining pretty much all night. And I really don't like to airbrush when it's raining because the humidity is too high. And it really kind of messes up my thinner and all the ratios and stuff that I usually do. So we'll kind of play it by ear, and I'll look at the weather and see how things are going. Unfortunately, that's just kind of what happens too, is you gotta sometimes plan your priming and other stuff around the weather. I do have a dehumidifier in this room, so if push comes to shove, I'll be able to like keep it down to a level where we can at least do some work. But yeah, we'll just have to see. But yeah, we're just gonna wrap up right now. Thanks for those of you who's sticking out till the very end. Okay, got most of this sanded down at this point. There's a really little hole I'm a little concerned about, but it should be okay. And so I'm gonna go in with my high grit one now and just kind of smooth things out. Removing all those little fuzzies, so you can see it's still taking off stuff, even though it, you know, doesn't look like there's a lot of action happening here. This is really more of a buffing sandpaper. And I'm still working in a circular motion. Taking a look, there's a couple of little scratches here. Don't know, excuse me, how they arrived, but we'll see if we can sand them. Might need to use the 800 on these. So yeah, this primer will show you all the imperfections. These were not scratches caused by me, I think. I noticed this a little bit on her hair too. There's like some lines, either from the casting or the sculpt. And so we want to smooth down all of that. Let me see. The photo will show this, because this is kind of what I was talking about earlier in the stream, where primer will show you, sorry, 1 second. Come on. Primer will show you the scratches and areas that you missed, or areas like ridges that are not as even. Okay, it's gonna be pretty difficult to see. Might be too difficult for some of you guys' eyes to determine it. I can kind of see it. So you can see this white hazy area here is stuff I've sanded down. But there's these little fine lines here. So like right here and right here on my kit, those are like scratch areas. So it's like here, 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 and here. Those are all scratches that I noticed on the kit that primer is like filling in. So it looked like it was a little bit fuzzy on the screen on the stream there. So sorry if you can't see it, but I assure you it's like defects and stuff that I'm noticing. So all of that needs to be buffed out. Okay, look. And a lot of like hairs and stuff for whatever reason. Okay. I'm gonna go along the bottom here. Also, what you may or may not notice when you have a prime job is hairs getting caught in your prime job, and those can all be buffed out with these higher grit sandpapers. So if you get a hair stuck in, you know, when you're spraying, don't freak out and try to like pick it out. because that's going to do more damage to your prime job than it is just like going in with a fine sandpaper later and buffing it out. It's a lot easier to remove that stuff in the post, like sanding stage, than it is right in the middle of spraying. Even it's so tempting to go in and do that. It's better just to wait. Okay. And I know there was like hair here. Okay. One little hole, but now I can't find it. So maybe I sanded it down. Gonna buff this out in the front. Taking a look. Well, in any case, I don't see it now, so I think that if I notice it later, off stream, I'll just fill it in. There was just like one little hole, micro hole, that was a bit larger than the others. So with that said, I'm gonna wrap up this stream. We finished, let's see if I can push it, all of these pieces, and so we've still got all of these pieces, so kind of the bigger ones here. Thankfully I didn't notice too much, excuse me, on her eyes or anything like that. It's like a little piece of paint that got stuck in her eye. But yeah, so we definitely still do need to sand down all of these. So we'll be doing that on Wednesday. Maybe not all of them if I manage to get some of these pieces done with before that, but I'm also pretty busy with my commission these days, so most of my time is going to that. So yeah, we'll have to see on Wednesday. Chances are we'll just be sanding again. Sorry for those of you who want more airbrushing, but once that's done, for sure we'll be able to airbrush again and keep on going. So I'm gonna wrap up this stream. No, you're not distracting at all, Allie. I really like having the conversation and being able to talk. This is like kind of my standard pace, to be honest, so don't worry about that. I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Next stream is on Wednesday the 14th, so check that out. 14th at 8 p.m. EST. So have a good night, you guys. I will see you later. Stay safe and happy, and good night. Bye-bye.